We're conducting a budget work session tonight, since we just received the budget at the last council meeting. What my plan is we'll go through page by page, and I'll open the dais up for council members for any questions they have. And we have the directors here to provide us all the words of wisdom, all the correct answers to make us smart. Okay, we'll start off with page number 1 of 22. I'll open the floor up to council for any questions on page 1.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I've noticed that on page 1 of 22, 1, 2, 3, 5th line down and 7th line down, personal property tax incorporated and income tax city share has decreased significantly since fiscal year 2021. So I was wondering what this tells us about the demographics in the city. Do we have more retirees, so the income tax is less? But it's relatively significant, especially on the income tax side. I think I have 32% here, and personal property tax is 25% lower.
What was I waving? Okay. There's 2 different answers for each kind of tax.
Okay.
For the personal property tax, you have to take into consideration the... It's on? Is she saying it's not on? My light's out. There are 2 separate answers. For personal property, we get the value of the personal property from the State Department of Assessment and Taxation in March. It can go up, down, depending on the businesses that are there, what they're using. It's based on their shelving and materials that they use. So if the type of business changes, all of that can be a wild card. And, pardon me, you may recall, too, that there is a $1,000 credit given for the first $1,000 of taxes for personal property. The council, pardon me again, approved a $1,000 credit so that they wouldn't even have to file or do anything with it. So it's only the bigger players that change. So what you're seeing here is a combination of restructuring of the businesses with less personal property in their stores, slowdowns from COVID and the like. The other part of this, we can only bill it based on the proposed, we estimate it based on the foundation. The SDAT gives us the rates that we have supplied, proposed, and the $1,000 credit, and it's just a product. And whether it can switch between incorporated or unincorporated. Railroads and utilities is pretty straightforward because that's a very specific part. Now, for income taxes, there is a wild card right now because the state extended filing until July. So we do not know, because people don't send us their income tax, they send it straight to the state. We do not know if the current reduction is a timing from people not filing yet their state taxes, or is it a reduction in personal income? We just don't have a basis for determining that. Okay. We do the best we can to estimate it, but with that extension to mid-July, we have no way of knowing, so it's our best estimate.
All right. So, okay. It was concerning since the difference, I know it spans just really 1 year, but by what we're projecting this year from 2021.
Well, yeah, and our projections for 2022, the current year,
right,
are based on our belief that we will recover most of it, but like I said, with the extension, instead of April filing deadlines, there's now July filing deadlines.
Okay, so you're keeping your estimate the same then for...
We're projecting it moving forward based on our current basis, yes.
And the other question I have is down on rents. The rent for the visitor center does not have a projection.
The
And
visitor
the
center no
rent.
longer pays us rent.
I'm sorry, no longer pay rent?
Visitor center is no longer in our building.
Okay. And then the Star Center, I know that's brand new, so I don't know if there's any, like, projections, future.
As of right now, we have not tried to project revenues for the Star Center because it's not yet operational, other than the small Parks and Rec program that we've got.
Okay.
And that's only up until,
So when you account for the revenue, will you include for the gymnasium, or you're going to separate the two in terms of entities?
the Star Center will include both right now.
Both,
is the
okay.
intent.
That it? Anybody else? Jason?
That is kind of an interesting question there with the income taxes, George. Is there a reason why we're not using 21 actual numbers versus a 22 carryover? Because if you're expecting to receive receipts in July, that would be 23, correct?
It will be 23, but it'll be 22-year tax year. We would actually move them into 22 because under state law, they're tax year 22 revenues.
But it wouldn't be considered general fund balance for 23?
It would go into the bottom line of the fund balance if and when we receive them. What we're doing now is trying to project what we think is going to happen. And we've got basically the income tax at the estimates. The 2021 income tax also included a lot of corrections where they reconciled prior years, which we did not expect to. We're not going to get those kind of windfalls every year. That wouldn't be realistic.
That it, Jason?
Sure.
Anybody else? Casey?
The firing range is increased as well, a new.
Go ahead. Chief, go ahead.
No, ma'am. That's because we do need a lot of repairs up at the range. Between the pavilion, the tower, and then we also changed the bullet trap, the system we were using for the bullet trap. So that's why there's that increase.
Chief, this is on the revenue side.
Oh, on the revenue, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that, because of the users, yes, I apologize.
These are based on what we think, where
Correct.
the rents we believe we're going to get based on discussions the chief has had with her other
Right.
police agencies.
Yeah, as I understand, we're
Federal, state, and all.
increasing the usage because we're upgrading the facility.
That's correct, and we also did increase the cost that we were charging them.
Oh, I forgot about that, that's right.
Yes, yeah, it went from 250 to 300 a day.
Okay.
It's 300.
And the upgrades, when should they be complete?
Well, we're at this point right now, we've sent it out for bids, that type of thing, so I hope we'll start on that. I don't know exactly when it's going to be concluded, as far as the pavilion and the tower and that type of thing, but we've already started that process.
It is expected to be done next fiscal
Yeah.
year sometime, but we haven't tied it down that much.
A lot of it just depends on materials, equipment, that type of thing that can be, that the contractor can get.
There are funds in the expense side of the
Correct.
PD's budget for those upgrades, because she has some budgeted money this year that we feel like we're going to spend the beginning part of that, but the following year, 2023, the rest of those improvements will
That is correct,
occur with the tower
right,
and the pavilion.
the pavilion. Mhm.
And once you have those upgrades, are you good for a while, or?
Yes, now, as far as the bullet traps are concerned, we do have to purchase those on a yearly basis. So that expense is not going to go away.
And
When we purchase new ones, do they remediate the bullet traps? 'Cause
We do have somebody that does the remediation.
Any other questions?
yeah, I just wanted to point out one thing. I know we're on the revenue side, but on the expense side, since Councilmember Boyer spoke about it. So there's, most of the fixed assets at the range have been let go for a period of time. We haven't made any improvements, or very little improvements.
That's correct.
Other than the surface and, of course, the bullet traps and that piece of it. So the investment this year or next year is going to look a little substantial. Huh?
he wants us to turn on the microphone.
My mic's on. It was Cassie, I couldn't hear. Oh, Casey. What looks like substantial, but it's going to be something that will last us for another 10, 15 years.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Just for the public's point of view, for the admissions and amusement tax, while there's 83K identified, most of that is coming from Bully Rock Golf Course, like 92% of all that's coming from Bully Rock. And I do want to give a shout out to MML and the local officials regarding the highway user fees, because that's a big plus, and that's a win-win for the city. That being said, we'll go to page 2. Okay?
Yes, I have a question on the living shoreline. I read your summary, Mayor Martin, and did we get the grant? We moved it over from 2021 because of COVID. So did we get the full amount, or does the state still need to make us whole in terms of the shoreline, the 2 million?
We've gotten all that money.
We've gotten all the money.
We have all the money here.
Okay.
The boat, everything's been allocated to
We
the
got
state.
it's awarded. We
It's
haven't got the
awarded.
money.
We haven't gotten the money, but it is awarded and locked in.
Okay, all right, so we're going to be whole at the end of this project based on our assumptions on what we need to put in for the pier
And we'll be
versus
asking for
everything
more.
else. Everything else,
We've already put in for more.
okay.
Any other questions? Dave?
The sale of surplus property, does that include all vehicles, DPW, all? Or is that just,
It is both police and DPW on the enterprise lease program. This is one of the bigger years as we start to turn over those cars according to the program. And that's what was used to develop the budget estimate.
Any other questions? Page 2? Go to page 3. Any questions? Go, Dave.
the public relations budget increase? It's not a huge increase, but it is, when we looked at what was currently spent is 12.5, and what was projected is 18, but now for the next budget, you're looking at 25, so it's double what is currently actually been spent, and about $7,000 more. So just kind of trying to figure out where the need for that increase is coming from.
I understand, and you correct me if I'm wrong. That includes the volunteer holiday appreciation dinner that we conduct every year, that the mayor has every year. Also
That's
includes
part of it.
includes official attendance of the mayor and city council at various events, whether it's MML, MACO, et cetera.
That is correct. And, you know, as one of the things driving that price increase is as we continue to reopen the city to events, we expect that there'll be more public relations to promote and make that happen from the mayor's office.
Yeah, other items that are included in there is the Tolls event, city apparel, for example, the
Okay.
shirts and so forth, flags, wreaths across America, and as you said, the tickets for the events and also volunteer appreciation dinner. So what was happening is a lot of these expenses were getting kind of, they're spreading around, so we've kind of recalibrated and tried to pull what is truly a public relations cost into this category. So that's why you see the increase.
Excellent. Anything else from council? Okay, we go to page 4, council's budget. Any questions? Go, Dave.
The travel expenses for council, it was basically cut in half. And I know a part of the travel expenses have been my attendance of MML functions, and with me stepping down from MML this year, I don't know if that was taken into consideration or the reason for the reduction from basically almost $10,000 to $4,500.
Yeah, the 4,500 was more along the lines of what the traditional spending before your activity, so yes, it takes that into consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think last year was somewhat of a high year, if I'm not mistaken. Last year was somewhat of a high year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And also, that's an area that if we start to get in trouble, we can easily make a correction and an amendment to that. And by no means should the council feel like, if all the council wants to attend the MML or just a couple of whatever it is, whether it's summer, fall, we'll make the adjustments necessary as the year goes on.
As I said, I picked up a couple because I was on the board of directors. They were having additional meetings that I had to attend, and of course, they weren't doing anything local.
Anything,
you.
anything else? Just for the public's point of contention, public relations for the city council, that includes televising the council meetings. So that's why it seems to be a little on the high side for 13K, but it's so that we can get the televising the council meetings, you know, as we do it. So go to page 5. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, so this one has me concerned because the bottom line number year over year is almost $1 million more. So I'm looking first at the salaries of regular time employees, and that's increasing roughly $150,000. So I'm looking at 3 seasonal employees, so it's the trolley drivers. Do we know what their pay rate is going to be?
The
And
trolley
what's-
drivers are in this, are what make up the seasonal, so that is the expectations to pay over the summer for the trolley drivers. It's
Right.
the 40,000.
4,000 per?
No, that's the total.
It's $18 an hour, council
Okay,
members.
and what's the season? How many months?
Well, at this point, we're going to open it up and hopefully in May, and then we're going to run up through October, November,
So
right
that
after
counts
the Oktoberfest.
$12,000 of the $150,000 increase for 9 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, and 3 seasonal.
I know as far as the salaries go, and we're going to see this across the board, the salaries are reflected a change because of the civilian personnel compensation plan, and it's a result of legislative increases on minimum wage, the mandate to have state offices comply with the living wage, and the inflation experience, you know, throughout the state. So I think that plays pretty much across the board. It's going to affect probably many of the lines as we
Yeah,
go
you
through
will
the budget.
see- You will see increases across most of the civilian plans, with one exception. When we get to it, I'm sure it'll be asked, and I'll get to it. But basically, with the increase mandated by the state legislature in the minimum wage,
Okay.
the mandate that state agencies comply with full-time employees with the living wage, we kind of calibrated our whole pay structure to keep the basic structure, but use those as the starting points. And I would say you could guess that most of the employees, when it was all said and done, got about, what's that, about 4 or 5% total increase in pay.
Okay. I have more
That's about the
visibility
average.
with wages and benefits. I have more visibility with the police department because we did that first.
We did that this year.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
we
this
did
is
not-
for anticipation for next
Right,
year.
and we
Part of
didn't
it driven by
tackle
the
those
legislation.
amounts yet on the
Yeah.
citizens.
And that affects, you know, the FICA expenses and all the way through, because that's all. So, but basically it averaged, I want to say between 3 and 5%, depending on the position.
You're right.
The lower positions got a higher percentage because they were driven more by the living wage kind of decisions and the like.
Okay. I'm going to ask about hospitalization probably in every page, and the reason for that is, like, for example, here we have a 22,400 increase over, what did I say, how many employees? Not everybody's in, 9 employees. I didn't count the part-time employees, but when you take the difference between this year, projected, and next year, in some of these pages, it goes down, so we have a negative number per employee, and in other pages, it goes up.
Yes.
And sometimes it's only $600 for IT, for example,
Yeah, what you've got to
with
build into
employees.
your equation is people's lifestyle changes. If they add family members and go to family coverage, that'll cause it to go up dramatically. Likewise, if their kids turn 26, it comes down dramatically. If they get married, they get add a spouse, or if they're a single parent, their child. So all those are rolled together, so you'd have to go into each individual and see what's driving it. But basically, we reconstruct it based on the anticipated rates and the type of coverage the employees are expected to take.
Yeah, not,
Looking at it dollar for
I guess
dollar,
yeah,
it's gonna be all over the.
not every employee participates in the healthcare program.
right, right. And I know it's a crapshoot, but the areas where you see a decrease in the amount, like some places, we have an increase of $3,000 per employee, so not all of them in that group are getting raised by $3,000.
And if you have any vacancies, we always budget for a family so that we have adequate funding for new hires.
So it really,
There's a lot of moving parts to
yeah,
that.
there's a lot of differences, though, and it's a wide range in terms
Yeah,
of,
like I said, it's a combination of whatever's happening within the department and the employees.
and then the retirees' medical benefits are significantly higher. Now, do we have more retirees this year, or is this, again, an estimate based on?
Yeah, no, we have had a number of
Okay,
retirees
I mean,
this year. Yeah.
that's a good answer, I just wanted to know.
Yes, we have.
And then professional services, I know we did some professional services contracts this year, and the difference is roughly $90,000 for next year. So do we anticipate hiring somebody new, or have we hired someone towards the end of the year and we're carrying that amount over into next year?
Yeah, so I think that we're all aware that the events chief has been hired, so we're carrying that salary over for the next fiscal year as well.
Okay.
And she's a contract employee.
Okay. And then I just noticed that the Independence Day Commission doesn't have an amount, so have they kind of fallen off for?
No, so ironically, when we get the volunteer budget requests every year, the Independence Day Commission sent us a very nice letter, and they said that due to their fundraising efforts with both the Independence Day, Celebrate the Fourth Foundation and the Independence Day Commission, that they did not need the $5,000 this year. Yeah,
It's a success
Now,
story.
that doesn't mean they may not ask for it next year, but
That's right.
Absolutely.
they have been very successful with their fundraising.
So, my bottom line, though, I hope you can understand my concern with how much this has increased in such a short period of time, and it's not sustainable if it continues down that path.
Sure.
So I just wanted to make note of that.
Agreed, and I think that's a great observation. I think what we are seeing this year is a result of the last 3.5 or 4 years where we didn't have, we only had a 2% increase. We didn't have a COLA, we didn't have a reset. When Mayor Martin took office in his first year, remember we had a couple years where we froze the wages and kind of got everything caught back up. Now we're in a position through wage and benefits. We finished, as George said, we finished PD, and this reset now is going to kind of recalibrate and move the workforce up to where we think they should be and be competitive.
Any other questions? Okay, Keith?
So I note on the employee wellness program that we've been budgeting 10,000, but it doesn't look like people are participating at the same rate as what we're budgeting.
So, and you're right. So there are several programs that Mr. Ritchie has come up with that have, they were mediocre at best. He actually went to a...
Or Mr. Ritchie came up with fabulous ideas.
We did, but no, the response was mediocre at best, I should say, I'm sorry. So he has some ideas. He went to a conference to kind of, and this was one of the things that we've been looking at, is trying to get people more engaged. When we met with our healthcare providers last month, they had some ideas for us as well. So we hope that 2023 will get a much higher level of participation and maybe throw a little higher incentive out for people to get involved.
So would the expectation be, if we show a trend that it's not really working, that maybe next year the budget would be reduced?
We would. We either come up with something to the, to liken, to either come up with something that we feel like will work or just drop it 15, 20%, whatever the case may be.
I think it's a great thing. I want to encourage it, but, I mean, it does pay off
It does.
outcomes. It won't be immediate, but down the road, diabetes, asthma, et cetera, but.
It's a great program, so I agree. If it doesn't work, then we'll drop it.
And then I want to focus on utilities. Are we finding that the Star Center is costing us more in
Well,
utilities?
that includes the gym and auditorium, so, I mean, that's a cost we pick up, so
We had that last year too, so, I mean, is it
not necessarily for the whole.
budgeted 152? So is it
Cost
is it
across the
costing us
board,
more?
It's going up across the board for utilities. I mean, that's a given.
So,
That's what I'm asking.
yeah, so overall, with all the buildings that are on the city solar service, we're in good shape with, because we don't realize some of the high increases that the normal users see. However, the Star Center is not in that program. So this rate uses what we got from the Board of Education last year, and also some level of, and George can maybe share what the percentage increase is, just based on what we've been seeing with BGE rates.
Right, the increase, and it is primarily at the Star Center, because that was not included when we estimated what our needs would be for the solar. It's been an add-on. So it is still subject to price increases, and I think they were shooting for about almost a third
Right.
rate increase.
And can we get
But
them on
and-
the
and what-
solar?
The other thing to make note is this year, we did not have a full 12 months of the Star Center.
Exactly.
It was several months into this year before we turned the Star Center on, got it, and turned it on. So next year reflects a full 12 months. This year does not.
So and going where I think you're going, so we stay in contact with our solar partners. And if there is room that comes available at the solar field, then they know we want to get on. Now, it won't be at the rate that we signed up for way back when, but yeah, we're always open if there's some available capacity to add our.
Could you explain how that works?
So we signed an original agreement, I think it was the first year the mayor was in office. And there's a percentage, a basic percentage reduction that we pay. Actually, it's a fixed rate on the therms that we purchase through BGE for electric, or the BTUs through BGE Electric. So that number's fixed. There is, I think, a slight escalator over the years, or I can't remember if there's escalators just fixed for the entire.
We were set for 20 years.
Yeah. So anything that we want to add to it, there has to be capacity for. So right now, they're full. The field we use is down in Perryman. So we sort of shop and we get notices from time to time on other solar deals, but they're just not to the point where we can get a fixed rate, or I think most of those are just a slight percentage less with escalators built in.
Right, and in truth, we needed to see what the draw was going to be, because you have to estimate what your needs are going to be.
Yeah.
And so we need to develop a history before we try to go out and contract it. But that'd be one of the things that we're going to be looking at and continue to look at, is trying to find more solar capacity, because the way it basically works, we get credit from BGE for everything we produce from our solar panels, and they apply that credit to, and they tell us which accounts, because we have like 80 accounts between all the buildings and stuff. And so then it gets transferred and credited to each of our accounts based on the current rate BGE charges versus this. We pay 6 cents, and we will for 20 years. Now it's about 17 years going into the future per kilowatt hour.
Okay, thank you.
Very good rate.
So would it be advantageous to have a new roof put on the Star Center in the event that we did want to go towards solar?
It would be advantageous for several different reasons. Yes, absolutely, the energy efficiency of the building will be improved with the new roof. Also, we would hope that in the event that the Star Center we decide that it's going to be a short-term investment, it would improve the value of the property. Now, will we get 100 cents on the dollar? Probably not. That's not the way real estate works. But we would hopefully gain attractiveness for events between now and when that decision's made, so that we can make the right decision, both economically and development of the city, and weigh all those factors together.
Tammy,
Panels aren't going on the roof.
Tammy, keep in mind too, the roof replacement, as I know it today, the county executive is proposing to give us $500,000 for the roof replacement, so,
That's fantastic.
so, the truth could always change, but, you know, that's what we know. Anybody else?
I have forgot an item. I just want to bring it up because it's my commission. It's for $22,000 for the Historic District Commission, and that's a significant increase, but the increase for that is because of the resolution we passed for them to have historic markers on the heritage property. So I just want to be sure that everybody understands that, what that increase is for.
Dave?
This is going to be, for expediency's sake, George, when we are talking in the salaries and healthcare benefits, it's going to go across all our employee groups. What's the average? Because I know we're using a high end. We're also, so what are we anticipating from our healthcare vendor in the rates to be what increase? 20%, 30%? And that will,
Actually, the rates, we got, we had another successful negotiation session, and I think we ended up at 6.
6 with the possibility to drop a little bit more based on a couple factors we had to send into them. We started at, was it 18?
Yes.
18, and between George and Chris Ritchie, whenever you guys buy a car, take those two with you, because they've negotiated them down to where we are right now.
Okay.
and that's the reason I'm asking, because that and one of the healthcare providers did actually have a wellness program that they brought in.
As part of theirs, they make a contribution to the wellness program, yes.
Okay.
In an effort to, you know, obviously for them, it's good business too, to try to promote it.
But as I said, this is for expediency, so we don't have to hit this when we hit every single employee group for benefits. Thank you.
Any other questions for page 5? Go to page 6. Any questions? Carolyn?
Have we identified the office equipment for 67.5?
Yeah, well, I could speak to that. Both for 2022 and 2021, it was much lower than expected. And this budget is an attempt to get us back on track and with planned equipment replacement citywide. So we're just trying to get back in the grand scheme of things. Because of the pandemic, I mean, things had slowed down for both 21 and 22. Is that correct, George?
That is correct. You may recall, we developed a recycling program for all the computer equipment and the like, basically a 4-year turnaround. 3 years would be primarily the desktops, laptop combinations that the individuals use, and then the 4th year would be the servers and the like that are the backbone.
So is this considered, some of these numbers, are they considered depreciation on that 4-year plan? So you depreciate the asset and then you go back again?
That's not
to the
reflected, though, in the budget, because this is really a funding tool. It will be reflected in the financial statements, but not in the budget itself.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Dave?
Not a question, it's going to be, this year, the state passed a bill, House Bill 1346.
Mike?
Along with the Senate bill, and it's for a technology internship program. It was established this year, and it's going to give a grant of $4,200 for an internship. The requirement on the bill this year is the creation of the program, and the funding will be next year. So it's something for the city to keep an eye on. If we can get some interns to come on board and the state's going to help pay for them, it may not be a bad thing. So again, it was House Bill 1346.
Okay. Casey?
I'd like an explanation on the professional services.
Okay, one of the things, when we looked at, of course, when Randy Taylor came on board, one of the things we looked at internally is what where the city was most vulnerable, especially within the IT department. And one of the things that, and we're experiencing it unfortunately right now to some degree, is if something happens to Jeff Thompson, what happens? And Jeff is out on medical leave right now. We're getting by so far, but if there was some sort of major issue, the city would be very vulnerable within the IT department. Zach is doing a great job. He does more than what is expected, but his capabilities are not to the level of where Jeff is. If you recall, going back a number of years, Jeff sort of fell into this position after the IT director was suddenly killed in an automobile accident. And we don't want to get into that position again. This is some consulting on Jeff's part to also have a service that would be able to, at a flip of a switch, off-site, be able to take over our system here. So Randy Taylor's working with him on a couple of those options.
And have we identified anybody within the organization to shadow Jeff, or?
Zach is shadowing Jeff at this point. I'm not sure from Zach's perspective if that's his career path that he wants.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We'll go to page 7.
So my question here is, there's no allocation annotated for fiscal year 2021 or fiscal year 2022. So is this a new line item? Has it been taken from another section and put here, or is it because of COVID that we didn't have any actuals
No,
budgets for city events?
all good questions, Councilman Zinner. So this is when we established the events chief. We've also now established a line item where we're going to start to pull in all the events from all over the city, and categorically they'll land here. What we plan to do the first year is detail the spending. So for example, we hope by the end of the year we'll start to have, other materials and supplies, advertising, everything sort of like broken out, and that's how we're going to code it going in. We also code it going in by event. So the goal is at the end of this cycle to be able to have a good true number of how that $100,000 is going to be broken out. And I'll give you some examples. So when we have a city event, whether it's Oktoberfest or the Holly Jolly First Friday, where do those funds come from? Well, it's sort of some funds that rotate in and rotate out, but there's really not any set expectation or any set budget that they come out of. That's what we're hoping to establish here. And then at the end of the year, we can actually have a good record of what revenues came in, what revenues went out, which spending category that we really need to pay attention to, and detail that. So that's sort of the idea behind that. It's new, and we hope, we're a city that has a lot of events, and a lot of the hit was taken for these events, or the costs, was through the tourism department. And with the mayor's direction, we've kind of rethought the whole, and Ms. Johnson's coming on board, rethinking the whole tourism event mindset, that tourism is a separate entity. Tourism doesn't mean events. Events means events. So sort of separating them, the two, and I can let Ms. Johnson kind of, because she has some items in her budget too, that kind of explain what direction, what the mayor's vision that we're going to take tourism to.
Thank you.
I guess in that vein, would this be a way to account for and attribute specific costs like PD overtime or DPW that's for city events?
Not categorically here, but within the chief's budget and the Department of Public Works budget, when council passes an event, there's a coded number that the finance department gives. So we have not done a good job over the last couple years of coding. We code them, we send them out. PD does a relatively good job with allocating their resources over time and so forth to the events. DPW, not so much. So that's really what we're focusing on this year with sort of what we've always classified as intangible costs, the labor and the materials. Now we're trying to make that tangible. But it won't be captured here
Yeah, it will be
within
captured.
within their labor budgets.
The labor budgets, they've always been captured. But with the tracking number, which you will see on every event, we hope we can pull it out from the total fairly easily, so we can look at exactly what events are costing us in terms of labor dollars.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of my question, because if you're breaking out what the city costs are for events, it would make sense, I guess, to have that cost wrapped up here as well.
Absolutely.
And then, charity events and stuff like that under the guise of like the PD or DPW's expenses would make sense to me.
Yep. Agreed.
You good? Okay, we'll go to page 8. Any questions?
Unemployment insurance, do we need to keep carrying over that high amount versus what we actually use?
Yeah, the unemployment insurance is characterized, because we're self-insured. We don't pay unemployment insurance. We pay based on claims. And, however, when it's charged to the individual departments. There is a line item in each personnel grouping for unemployment claims. But not knowing where it's going to occur, we
Where it's
budget
gonna
for
land,
it right here at the 15,000. And you'll never see any actual expenses from the 15,000 because we don't charge it here. It's just really the place setter for how much we think we'll pay out in unemployment insurance.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Under legal services, does that include the anticipated appeal of the pencil litigation? The increase of $40-some thousand, $45,000?
Yes, it does.
That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, let's go to page 9.
Professional services? So the professional services? So that's significantly higher, so is that Wanda
You wanna
Bokers?
start?
And
Mi-
includes
Miss-
the economic development
What
consultant.
professional services include?
Ms. Johnson can explain that.
I can, thank you. The increase in professional services is part of Wanda Boker's salary. When Wanda came on in August, she came in 2 months after the fiscal year had started, so this position was never totally fully funded. So this includes part of Wanda's salary, and I wanted to say this because she has done such a good job in this department. She has applied for, in the 8 months that she's been here, 4 grants. We have received the first grant from the LSHG in the amount of $5,000. We have pending a $49,000 grant from the Maryland Energy Agency, SMART. We have pending $396,297 from EDA. This would pay for our transient pier. And we also wrote a grant, but we had to retract it for the roofing at the Star Center only because that project came with an easement. Besides that, she's working on 3 other projects, and we have 4 in place starting July 1st. So there is an increase in her salary, as well as we have a new position. It is part-time. And I'd like to say also, Wanda Boker doesn't receive any benefits. She's an independent contractor. She takes no health care or any city benefits. The next position is a position that we spoke about with the mayor, with the administration, the chief of staff, and we finally came up with a title or a name for the position, and it is Digital Content Manager, Storyteller, and Writer. I don't know if we will find all of those qualifications in one person, and I say that not jokingly, in that we will advertise this position as part-time and possibly through a RFP process, because it's possible that a firm, a marketing firm or something that specializes in this type of work would apply. But we have a lot of great stories to tell in the city of Havre de Grace. One is the Living Shoreline. The other is the Downtown Revitalization Project. The other is the Star Center, and I could name about 10 more. We do not have the staff to actually write and keep up with these projects. I can take a picture and post it on Facebook, but we need someone that can sometimes attend council meetings, attend some of our commission meetings, be able to tell the story and continuously tell the story. So that person's salary will also, or firm will also fall under this category, also with any resources that may be needed. And last but not least, on July 1st, the Main Street Coordinator Program will be coming back under the city. It will be under my department. That program comes with funding from DHCD, so we'll talk about that later, George. But so there's actually this line item captures 3 different individuals.
No, I wasn't questioning her value, I was just,
Oh, no, I just wanted to brag about her.
yeah, I just wanted to see
Okay.
where it changed and
Yes.
what the time period was.
Absolutely.
I knew she, from your reports during council nights, how much she has done and how much
Absolutely. Yes.
grant money she's pulled in, so
Yes.
kudos to Wanda and Economic Development.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good.
I just want to make note, the advertising budget's pretty high, and I think that includes Business Appreciation Week, Hartford County's 250-year celebration, and your partnership and sponsorships with Visit Hartford. Is that correct?
It does, CP. And also, last year was when we did Business Appreciation Week, and it was every single day of the week. We may do things a little differently this year, but I fully intend for it to be just as big and a celebratory occasion, and possibly even bigger. And yes, we are participating. The other 2 municipalities are sponsoring Hartford 250, so of course we will not be left out of that. And yes, the partnership opportunities with Visit Hartford.
Okay. Go to page 10,
That would be me as well.
Jimmy.
Under advertising, there's a significant drop from 59,600 projected for this year to 17,000 requested. Why is that? We cutting something out?
So in previous years, the advertising budget was based off of a marketing plan, and the marketing plan lists all of the city events. So some of those city events have been transferred to the chief of events, Parks, Events, and Recreation. So the ones that were transferred to her was like the Oyster Feast, Oktoberfest, Defenders Day, I believe the Mardi Gras Parade. So I looked at the cost of those events, the money that was spent on those in the previous years, and since we no longer have those events under tourism, those resources will be transferred to the chief of events.
Yeah, that goes back to the question on where some of the funding came from for the
Yes.
city events line item that was asked earlier.
And just keep
So-
in mind that printing and publishing is going down too, and that's because we're moving more towards online capabilities, as I understand it.
Yes, we are. And we have a lot of visitors' guides available at this moment. We will still print some in the future, but minimal. We are really trying to go digital and online.
Okay. Anything else? Steve?
On the org chart,
Yes.
economic development. On the org chart for economic development, I guess Bridget, you're number 1. Lori's
take that.
number 2.
Yes.
Who is the third person?
So we have not filled the position as of yet, but we will. It's another one of those things that's going to take place. So that would be the part-time tourism
And that
assistant.
goes to my next question,
Yes.
which is salaries, and that would be the increase in the salaries to fill that position.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Page 11. Finance. Any questions?
With the look George gave us, I don't think we're allowed questions. No, I have none, thank you.
I'll never let me have any fun.
I noticed that bank service charges are going up, and that's basically a move towards online billing, as I understand it.
Yeah, we continue that effort, and it's kind of continued the growth trend that we've experienced in the last 3 to 4 years as more people pay online, and hopefully we'll get them more to get billed online. And that's going to be our push this year, because that's a much bigger cost savings for us than the online payments.
And I think it's important for council that the city absorbs those online payment fees. We do. And you don't get that in some of the other municipal governments, right?
That's correct, or the county.
So, yeah, well, I didn't want to say that. But, yeah, so we encourage it, and we have made a concerted effort. I know during the council meetings, George will, every third or fourth meeting, will mention the opportunity for citizens to start doing that.
Is there actually like a tangible personnel time savings as well with online bill pay versus paper?
Yes, there is, because you don't have to receive, enter checks, do all that kind of things. A lot of time savings, since it's done out front, it's not a lot because she still has to man the desk up front. But in terms of accuracy and expediency, it's a lot more efficient. It would be much more efficient if we could get more people to get their bill electronically. That would be a much bigger operational savings.
Is that something the citizen has to opt in?
Yes, yes, but that's, all they have to do is say, that's what I'd like, and we can take it from there and run with it.
They have to notify your department?
Well, we have to turn it on for their address. The way the system works, we turn it, we basically say they're going to get electronic bill, and we have to make sure we have a good email address. So when somebody does that, we will send out an email invite so that they can confirm their email address, so that we don't get, well, I never got the bill because we have a bad email address. So other than that, that's really all it takes is to reach out to city, and we put it on the, print it on the bills and the like, so that we can make sure we have a good email address. We turn it on, and from then on, you get your bill via email. We don't have to print it, mail it, stuff it, do anything else like that. And that's where we will hopefully see much more improvement and a reduction in operating costs.
Also, keep in mind, professional services is going up because of the requirement to perform a single audit under the American Rescue Plan, so that's driving that increase.
For the next probably 4 to 5 years, we will have that increase because ARPA, anytime you receive over $750,000 in federal funds, you're required to do a single audit, and there are exact requirements that they must do, tying the program to the rest, to the record keeping and the like. And so that's what costs you extra.
Okay.
But it's a small price to pay, just saying.
All right, let's go to page 12. Any questions?
Page 12? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just one quick question. Again, it's about professional services. Is this anticipated for next year? Is this, because I don't think we have anyone in professional services right now in planning, do we?
Yes,
I think this is for demolitions of neglected
That's
properties.
Planned a demolition program for any derelict kind of buildings. You'll notice we had the same level budget for this fiscal year, but we haven't been able to achieve it yet. We achieved about 50% of it, but we do believe there's enough inventory that needs to be considered.
And
that kind of investment.
council members enter also in that is our GIS coordinator.
What coordinator?
We have a
GIS.
contract GIS coordinator, and she came on board as a professional service to assist Diane Clare with the comprehensive plan. And so she's
that's
doing.
under professional services. Now, increase in salary is approximately 20%. I didn't know if we were considering maybe another code enforcement officer.
No, the org chart in the front, I will show you what the staffing of the department is, and there's no code enforcement
So
officer.
no new hires and,
No.
no, okay.
Any other questions? Dave?
Yeah, and it's similar, we had basically $81,000 increase in salaries, but yet the salaries for annual leave, we've lost about $10,000, which if we're hiring somebody, the annual leave balance should have gone up as well.
Yeah, again, you've got a couple of moving parts. When you replace a tenured employee with a new hire, they don't get as much annual leave, so you have more in the salary line item, less in the leave line item, because they're not eligible for leave.
And I guess the reason I'm saying that is the $81,000 increase is a significant increase. And if we're not hiring somebody at that rate, that's why I'm wondering about the annual leave usage. I understand a new hire doesn't get the same annual leave as someone with 20 years of experience, but that's a large salary jump.
Well, you have to, when you're looking at the salary, you have to take in the first 5 line items, maybe excluding the overtime, when you're doing the comparison, because whether the line item depends on the tenure of the person in the position, and if they change over and earn more leave, actually their salary line item will decline, and their leave balance will go up, because when they go through the year, they'll charge that salary to their leave as they use it. The salary in total will be based on the 26 pay periods that they get. But it's the breakdown. So looking at it individual line by individual line, you can get some unexpected results simply as people either A, mature, or B, get replaced with less tenured people. So it can work in either direction. A good hint that I always use is look at the FICA. Because it doesn't matter the category, the FICA will tell you kind of the amount and range of increase.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready to go page 13? Any questions? Dave?
The only question I have is mandated tests and related supplies. That's a huge jump. I don't know if that's, because I know it's under administrative, and I don't see it under patrol and investigation. Is that part of the new required testing by the state of Maryland for bias testing and physical fitness?
And also psychological evaluations.
Thank you.
Good.
To the what? I'm
I
sorry.
have a question in regards to physical fitness. We're going to be testing it. Are we going to be providing any time to our officers to prepare for the physical fitness
Yes,
test?
we'd have to do that, yes.
So does that mean gym memberships for them? Or, I mean, how are you planning to do that? Do they have an hour a day to work out?
No, we haven't actually developed a full program as of yet.
Okay. Would there be a cost associated that we need to work in preparation for that?
I don't know, and that's one of the things that we're looking at right now.
Okay.
The other good news is that under public relations, this includes resuming the safety camps.
Yes,
which is
sir.
A big plus for the city and for our kids.
Yes, the only thing is that we won't be doing as many this year because of, I'm actually short SROs. So what we want to do is put really good quality. We always had really good quality, but we want to do at least one good safety camp.
Some is better than none.
That's it, exactly. Yep.
Dave?
Last question under the mandated testing and training. Has the Maryland has the Maryland Police Training Commission completed all these courses? Are they, I
No.
think that's still one of the holdups is you can't do anything.
Correct.
Because you don't have the guidelines to go forward.
That is correct. We are waiting on the Training Commission because the legislation tasked them to do a lot of things, accomplish a lot of things in a short period of time. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Oh, go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. George, I guess the method for incorporating salaries, including the vacancies, is to fully fund them for the whole year. And I appreciate that the vacancies for police is broken out. It would be good to see that maybe for all of the services, you know? But realistically, from the time that the job is posted to the time that an officer's hired, what does that timeline look like?
Hired or starting work?
When we
Add
start
six
paying,
months
when we
for the
start paying an
academy.
officer. When we
From
start paying.
hiring, Steve, you're probably better in tune with the timing from the actual advertisement to.
Yeah, I actually think the chief could give you that probably hands down, but to Councilmember Robertson's point, so the budget numbers here, the expectation is we're not going to be fully staffed throughout the whole year. So do you see, I mean, because we know based on the last 3 or 4 budget cycles that just isn't the case. But Chief, you can
No,
start to
you're-
finish.
No, you're absolutely right, because it has been very, very difficult to hire police officers. People don't want to be police officers anymore. They don't even want to be dispatchers anymore. So we start the process, the advertising process, that type of thing. And I'll give you an example. We had testing this past weekend. We had a whopping 2 people showed up, of which we only have one really good candidate. So that's how difficult it is. And we've had vacancy for the dispatcher position for quite some time now. So it is very, very difficult. So to give you an actual timetable, before when people wanted to be police, I could give you one, but now it's very, very difficult to give you one.
Yeah, so I think maybe you're hitting my question there, Steve. This isn't all of these positions fully funded for the entire year. Is that correct?
Correct. So based on that knowledge of what we've had over the last number of years, and I can't tell you what the exact number is. It's not all 36 uniformed officers.
I believe we're estimating an average of 3 vacancies.
3 vacancies there.
Throughout the year. This, Councilman, this is the first time we're trying this.
Yep.
Due to the size of everybody's favorite lag money. We're trying to be more realistic with it, but it's hard to predict where and when, but the events of the last year has made it pretty obvious we're going to have it in the police department to an extent. We are estimating 3, and we'll see how this goes. This is really an experiment on the part of the administration to see if we can't refine our budgeting techniques a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, I think, a more accurate portrayal of what the total need going forward will be, but not just in police department. I'm not just picking on you. We just happen to be here.
No, I understand.
But for vacancies in general, I think that it makes sense to take a look at realistically what our entire year is going to be and what our need is going to be.
Right, and it's very important to list those vacancies so we can always keep track of them. It's huge.
That's right. So part of the budget package, that's why we include the org charts. So the budget's based on what you see there. But to your point, Councilman, we did the same, we used the same factors in DPW because we do see this cyclical in and out of personnel, and we know we have a specific time frame throughout the course of the year that we have vacancies within that department. And to George's point, what this will do, we hope, is put funding in categories where it's needed. If we get into the latter part of the year or after the first of the year, we have, and we have full employment, then we'll have to make some budget adjustments with lag money at that point. But to kind of tie it up through the whole year, to your point, I think is what.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to assume that somewhere we'll have some vacancies at some point in time. So we can always move funding around. But yeah, this is kind of what I was trying to touch on last year. So I'm glad to see that it's here.
Okay. Dave?
And this is not a question, this is a comment. Chief, I understand the needs, and I appreciate the integrity and honor that you hold and keep this department and your hires, that we have a department we can be proud of, and you're not just accepting a candidate, you're making sure that we get well-qualified candidates to become our Havre de Grace Police Department, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. I do also have to compliment the captains because they also do a very, very good job. And we've been very, very fortunate that we have very good police officers, and we do want to maintain them. So, thank you.
Okay. We'll move to page 14. Casey?
So there's an increase in the building maintenance. How's the building?
Yes, we are working on some issues with the building, because like anything else, you know, it has been around for over 20-plus years. So we actually had the roof repaired recently, or replaced, which was wonderful, and I have to thank Mr. Whitty and Mr. Conaway for that. But we still have some other issues within the building as far as, that's exactly it. With the air conditioning, we also have windows that are going to need to be replaced, those types of items.
And Chief, I also believe that includes duct cleaning as well.
That is correct.
Right?
That's the air conditioning, correct.
Okay. Carolyn?
So on the supplies and materials, you don't anticipate then using your current budget is 150,000, of which projected is only 88. So some of that money can move over into next fiscal year, George?
That will be in the bottom line. It's included in, if you go back all the way to the front page, the carryover, 2.37 million that we expect, it's included in that amount, any unspent this year.
Thank you.
And we've also tried to increase that number based on availability of ammunition.
Yes.
When we can get it, we try to buy as much as we can.
Yes.
Are we good? Page 15. Public Works.
Page 15. Waste disposal. That's really a big jump. So is it the additional?
It's additional services. Not only are we going to once again contract out residential and commercial trash pickup, but we're also picking up services such as the parks, emptying the trash cans out for the parks several days a week. Services that were one time done by the Department of Public Works are now going to be contracted out. So the trash removal at the parks over the weekends as well as during the weekday is now going to be contracted out. And we're going to assign those workers to more important duties within the Department of Public Works.
I think it's also important to note, because Tim, you reminded me, that in the contract responses, there is an estimated fuel increase cost that's going to be passed on to us by the contractor.
That's true.
Pretty significant.
That's hitting everybody across the board.
Yeah. And this contract, by the way, is out on for bid right now. I think the expectation is the end of this month.
Yes.
That we'll get the bids back, and we did it a little differently this year to make it more competitive. As Tim alluded to, we also added additional services, but we've also are open to having multiple trash contractors. So if they want, we sector the city up in 4 primary sectors. So if you have a couple of the smaller haulers that can take a section or 2, then we're happy to accept their bid coming in as well. Doing the entire city and the entire contract sometimes leaves out some of the smaller operators, and sometimes you don't always get the best price doing that. So again, this is a first this year that we're going to try and see where this takes us.
Should get a lot more competitive bidders in, simply because, as Steve, because we've zoned those 4 zones and created the opportunity for people to bid separately on the zones. Prior to that, we were just getting the big boys, GFL, the larger companies could handle the work, and It's going to definitely make it a lot more competitive, better pricing.
So overall, then you think, even though you have this price increase, that it'll save money in contracting the services because you're not paying for health insurance, you're not paying pension, you're not paying.
Exactly, and
that
it
kind of
also, what it
personnel
does is
overhead.
it really allows the Department of Public Works and the employees to do the more skilled things that need to be done. Definitely, you look through the cities, concrete work, those type of things, meter replacements, valve replacements, all those things that right now, we're assigning people to pick up trash. And so it definitely makes sense from a skill set to contract that
So
type
you're-
of work out.
How do your staff feel about that? Are they happy
I
about that?
think they feel good about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not having to come in on weekends, it's things like that, Saturdays and Sundays that we'd have to come in during the peak summer events and things of that nature.
Well, that's a positive, that's a big positive.
So it does allow that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Good.
So I noticed sidewalks and curbs, more money. Does that mean we're gonna have a project to increase the amount of sidewalks or replace sidewalks in town? What's the story?
That's the definite goal here, to provide us more money to do those replacements. We will be looking, I know we're sort of in the infancy right now of looking at possibility of contracting the street side out and doing an employee transfer. So that's some work that would be done by an outside, possibly by an outside contractor. We're still in the working stages of that right now.
Yeah.
But either way, we're going to be working towards getting those sidewalks replaced and be more proactive in that direction.
Yeah, one thing to note, there was a number of crosswalk projects that are built into this number as well to upgrade
the
them and
crosswalk?
repaint them.
Yeah, it's in the crosswalk project. It's in there as well for the
Sidewalk.
sidewalks, crosswalks across Juniata Street, those type of things, the thermoplastic sidewalk, crosswalks.
Okay, and how about finally getting the sidewalk for Juniata Street?
That's in the capital side.
That's in the capital
capital
side.
side?
Capital,
Okay.
capital budget.
Carolyn?
This is just kind of a little tangent, but with the hospital closing and everybody moving out, what's our responsibility for the grounds there? And are they going to still be responsible for their upkeep?
Yes.
I would hope so, but
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question.
Okay, page 16. Any questions? Page 17.
I hate to go down a tangent too, but Carolyn just made me think of something. When is the hospital going to stop operating? Is that going to be this year?
I think this fiscal year,
We have not been notified at all
That's
on
another
when
question.
when the end date is. I know Mr. Grimm has met with a number of individuals, including Cushman and Wakefield. So there is some activity as far as purchasers, contract purchasers, but that, everyone in this room knows as much as we know. So we really haven't got any definitive end date or what the repurposing is going to look like at this point.
Fair enough, thank you.
I think you'll see it on page 17 on the salaries that it's dropped from 22 to 23, and that's due to the reassignment of certain individuals going to
Correct. To the
other
water sewer
areas.
fund.
Run sewer fund, yes.
Okay. Go to 18. Oh, salaries dropped on page 17 because certain employees are being reassigned.
So to follow up on that, in DPW, there's the street sides and the Fund 9 positions, water sewer. Part of this reallocation Tim was talking about transferring is taking the most, not all, will leave us a small crew on the street side that'll handle things like emergencies that come up, day-to-day things in the summertime that may need to be done, building maintenance. So there'll be about 5 guys in that. The rest of the department is going to be transferred over to water sewer. And their job is going to be, Tim's got several crews lined up with crew leaders. There'll be a fire hydrant crew, there'll be a valve crew, a lateral crew. All these crews will start getting all this maintenance caught back up.
One of the things that's really been, because of the staffing and the issues, is we're looking at is a lot of things like valve exercising, valve replacement, fire hydrant replacement. We just can't, we weren't able to get to. We've become more, we've unfortunately been more reactionary than proactive. And what this reorganization will do, it'll allow us to become more proactive, to be able to take on more maintenance replacement program to keep the system in peak, the distribution system in peak operating. I mean, we always, it's, sometimes we, you know, Jeff and I talk about it as we have a certain water line, like on the line on Pennington, it broke twice. And the first time we were able to shut the line off between Juniata and Adams Street. Next time it broke, we ended up shutting it almost all the way up to, having to turn all the valves off at Union Avenue and all the way down to, you know, I guess it was Warren Street. So, because the valves are older, and then you turn them, and one day they work, and then sometimes they just stop. And so that's where we're going to start doing that type of program and bringing the system up and doing more of the maintenance.
We're calling it the Valve Wellness Program.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. We'll move to page 18.
I can't,
Carolyn?
how many employees do you have on shop operations? I didn't see it in Public Works Administration. 3? Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
If you go to the Public Works chart in front of page 15, on the left-hand side, about halfway down, you'll see the shop fleet manager and the mechanics.
Oh, and the 2 mechanics?
Yep.
Okay.
Go to page 19, volunteer organizations. Any questions? I have one. I know the youth sailing program has been huge for the city and for the kids, and I see that it's gone down by 2,000. Is there any specific reason for the youth sailing program going down?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So a couple things. One is each year Captain Rick comes in and he gives the council and the administration an overview of what occurred the preceding year. The city has funded startup funding for the last, I guess, 5 years. And what we're hoping now is now that there's a lot more, I think the number was about 40% of the participation is from the city, and the rest is coming from outside the city. So we felt like we wanted to put a little more responsibility on the sailing school to charge appropriately, especially for outside students that are coming in. And so that's, we took, I think we dropped, it was $2,000, I think, to 3.
Okay.
That was the reason behind it.
Okay. Go ahead, Casey.
So, and then there's an increase in the lighthouse expenses. What is that?
That's correct. If you go to the, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but in the volunteer organizations budgets, we did something a little bit different this year. So we put together a new form that kind of demonstrates what they're doing and how much associate funding that they're getting. And then on top of that, we asked for either a P&L or an audit if it's like the fire company or ambulance corps, or a balance sheet. And so specifically, and you have to pull their sheet up, there was something that was identified, a $3,000 increase that was identified that the mayor felt like it was worth adding to. What it was at this moment, I can't recall it.
So is it for them to, like, to fix something? Is that one, though?
No.
Lighthouse is you.
Well, if you look at the front page, it has Alpha number assigned to it. Lighthouse is U. And if-
So here, just so you all know, about 15,000 will support the operating expenses such as utilities, professional expenses, tax accountant, bookkeeper, insurance, maintenance of both buildings of property and supplies. About $3,000 will go to cash match an MHAA grant for interior repairs to the lighthouse and replacement of the fencing around the keeper's house.
That's what it was. I couldn't recall, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I think that's good
I don't know
use.
how that slipped my mind.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to page 20. No questions, we'll go to page 21. Capital budget. Okay.
Just so my fellow council members are aware, we discussed the next two sheets a little bit at the last Budget and Finance Committee meeting. So you'll see that the projected for the count number ending in 6508 Star Center ARPA, that's 1.675 million. The projected for 22 is the 1.431600. That is the that includes the budget amendment for 1.2 million for the gymnasium auditorium for the roof. That we pulled off of the agenda for last council meeting. I think myself and my fellow committee members felt comfortable putting that back on the agenda for the next council meeting, now that we've seen kind of what the overall plan is for the Star Center moving forward. So I just wanted everybody to get a heads up that we expect that money will be committed in the current fiscal year, FY22. And then you see that 475 in next fiscal year. And I guess Steve, George, Patrick, somebody want to just talk a little bit about what the plans are for the Star Center for next year?
Want to take that, or?
That was for,
Yes, yep.
Sound and-
Yeah, I'll give it a go. So aside from the roof work that is being done this year, with council's blessing, this next year will be the lighting and sound system, the leasing and installation for the 2 years, I guess, that will be operating the facility. And some of that expense, of course, will then be recovered through the leasing. You got to have sound and lighting to make it functional, and to have it installed each and every time is about $15,000 per performance. Well, that's it's just not cost. It's cost prohibitive. So to lease it over a longer stretch of time then also makes the facility completely usable for not just us, but the various outside agencies that want to come in to do their various performances and what have you. So
thank you.
that's the lion's share of that.
Carolyn?
I have a question. So if we start by leasing the sound and lights, would they, what with the idea and the commitment to them that we'll eventually purchase? So I don't know if it's like for the rest of the year or how long we would lease it, depending on what the calendar looks like for performances. Would they give us some reduction or apply some of that lease payment to the cost, the overall cost?
When we send out our RFP to these vendors for sound or for lighting, it is, there is an option in there for a lease to own. But that's something that would be entertained at the time. We want to make sure it would be a product that we would want to keep, and or if so, you know, what would be the longevity of it. So we'll have to also then at that time, even though it is available to us, lease to own, we would actually do a financial analysis of that to see if it makes sense, because this technology is changing so quickly. I mean, 10 years ago we were incandescent, right? And now we're LED. And It's just, it's an ever-evolving field.
Okay.
But we do have that option available to us.
Okay.
Okay. So item, citywide enhancement projects, do we have a list of them? I wasn't sure that I had seen them on the breakdown.
Not specifically, so there's sort of, this is part of the sort of what the mayor was looking at for this fiscal year coming up, and there's several factors that come into play. So one is that we want to install at least 3 more pickleball courts in 2023. We have several locations that we own that we can put the pickleball courts on. There's there's actually a room for a 4th out at Seneca Park that we're looking at. The other thing is with the new chief of parks, we wanted to have some availability for her to look at several of the parks, primarily McElhenney Park, to look at a complete redo of that facility up there. Now, where I say there's some moving parts to this is we were fortunate enough on Friday to meet with an individual who's now had the responsibility for the North Park property owned by Constellation Energy. So we have a point of contact that is the mayor had a quick conversation. I followed up with her over the weekend, and we have a meeting scheduled for the 13th, Friday the 13th actually, for her to come up, look over Tim's mosaic of all the properties that are up there, and try to reestablish a lease, long-term lease with them so we can make some improvements to Joe K. Trail, McElhenney Park, around the north end of the pond. Perhaps, I mean, the other thing that the mayor was asked us to look into was Frisbee golf, one of those type of arrangements up there. That's what those enhancements, citywide enhancements will be, those sort of things. Not to exclude any additional art or anything that sort of comes down the pike, that the mayor then can come to council and say, hey, we got a good use for this money, and it's not anything other than to enhance the experience of the city.
So,
But I can provide a list to council if you'd like of
what
those things, but it would be a list also to include other things as they come, right?
well, I saw this in several places, the citywide enhancement, so what I'm trying to determine is what things might be discretionary and what things are not discretionary. So if we have to massage the budget in some way for other infrastructure projects, what would be considered discretionary?
For other infrastructure projects. Okay, so why don't I'll provide you with a list, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Council with a list.
Okay. Any other thing?
I'm confused because, you know, of what you just said as far as the pickleball courts and the McElhenney Park. That's also listed here as options. So I'm just confused if that's citywide enhancements under that account number. Why does it have a separate account number over here then? Am I not understanding something?
What other location are you looking at?
She's talking about page 22. McElhenney Park is next to last.
Yeah, I think we pulled
There's 200,000.
McElhenney Parks out of
There's
out
200,000.
of the citywide and put it in its own project, because we were more towards certainty. 7107?
Yeah.
Yes, the $200,000, Councilmember Boyer, was kind of what I was eyeballing. You and I have discussed, like, revamping the whole playground.
Yeah.
Making it more innovative, more modern, like kids with special needs, all-inclusive, stuff like that. Like, I know the playground at Tidings Park costs around that much money, so we held that line item for the playground. That we'll identify, but we believe should be in that price range. The citywide enhancements would go for the rest of the area of McElhenney. That's why there's like,
For example, just for people, so for example, for the grills that are all updating the grills and the picnic tables and
that would all come from citywide
parking
enhancements.
potentially for that area.
And again, and Steve touched on this a little bit, but one of the jobs Mrs. Johnson has, Bambi Johnson, is to excuse me, kind of audit the city a little bit and be like, you know, these park benches should be replaced, or we should move these trash cans over here, and we should put these kind of trash cans there. Like, just, we want her to go around the city and give us suggestions on how our open spaces, our streetscapes and our parks can be enhanced. And because she just came on board in March, we don't have all that spelled out yet. Again, this is one of those things where we're hoping to get the ball moving, and it will all come out of citywide enhancements. And again, we can spell it out a little more in detail. But again, the $200,000 in McElhaney Park, I believe, should be in the range of the kind of playground we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Steve?
And you'll notice on page 22 is your Juniata Street sidewalks, right in the middle.
Awesome. I look forward to them getting in the ground.
So, okay, Dave?
Yeah, this was a project that's been proposed by Parks and Harbor a couple of times. The Century Park, replacement of McElhaney Park with a Century Park. Not only is it good for the children, but it's also good for senior citizens as well, because the Century Park actually has quiet zones built into it, so our senior citizens will be able to use that park. The estimate that I was able to come up with is a little bit more, Bill. It was about $250,000, but that was for a complete overhaul.
Okay. Carolyn?
Okay, the downtown infrastructure rehab resiliency, ARPA, $6,170,000. Tim, we've talked at DPW meetings about the cost of laying pipe at somewhere around $100 to $200 a foot. Is that amount in this $6,170,000?
$6 million covers the upgrades to the sidewalks and the streetscape, but it also covers the replacement of the, well, what we're hoping to do is the water line and all the services are gonna be replaced. The sewer line, we'll actually have to look at, we actually had that video, I have to take a look at that to see whether or not that can be. But at the very least, the water services and the sewer laterals will all be replaced. Whether or not the sewer has to be replaced is yet to be seen.
Do you know approximately how much we're looking at, either how many linear feet or how much that
I haven't
portion of
actually-
the project
I
will
think
cost?
I came in somewhere roughly at around, for the water line replacement, and I just assumed the sewer line was gonna be lined, which would probably cost us, well, probably somewhere around $150,000 to have the sewer line lined. But the water line, I think I came in about $500,000 for the water line to be
And what was the other line? Did you say there were three things? that
Well, there's
part-
the sewer laterals, and the sewer laterals typically would have to be replaced, and that would be somewhere within the lining of the sewer between 100, that would maybe another 10,000 for the sewer laterals to be replaced, but the $500,000 for the water line takes into account the water services lines being replaced.
And this is for all of the streets?
This would be for the section of the project that we're doing. We're not gonna do the entire.
Not the whole town, but I mean the section that's part of the
Yes,
project.
the section that's being replaced.
So roughly 700.
The reason it actually went down on the water side is because what I'm doing is we have a separate project that's being done, that we're replacing the water line that goes up 155 to Gracefield. Now, we're bringing that down, and originally, it was only going to stop at Warren and Adams Street, the water replacement. Further modeling the study was recommendation that we take it all the way down to the water treatment. So that on St. John Street, that portion of the water line is gonna be under a separate line item. It's not gonna be part of this project.
Okay, so that's going to be in your budget.
That'll be in mine.
And then this other structural work that has to be done along with the project, that's in your budget now too? Or it's included in this?
It's in that 6.1 million.
That's separate, but the Graceview extension
The Graceview extension, which will take care of the water line in St. John Street,
is in
is under a
DPW.
separate contract and not part of that 6.1 million.
Okay.
It'll be under DPW.
Okay, all right. Visitor center rehab, $400,000. What does that entail?
At this moment, that's just an estimate, ballpark estimate. So it's a complete redo of the entire building. So the shell of the building will stay up. It'll be new service, additional bathrooms that'll be accessible from the outside. The building, as you see it now, that has the bulkheading out front, that'll all come out. It'll have a wraparound porch. It'll actually, at the end of the day, be a site that you could actually have an event inside, like a visitor's social, a chamber of commerce, or that sort of thing. So it'll be like an open floor plan that's in there. You're not going to see the cut-up look that you see now. So new HVAC, new everything.
So you think that you might enlarge the footprint?
The only part of the footprint that includes is on the back portion where we have to add on for restrooms. And those restrooms, again, will be accessible both from the inside use and also outside. So it'll be open. We'll have them on time locks like we do the rest of the facilities throughout the city. But that's preliminary. Patrick may be able to bring you up to speed. I don't know if anything's transpired lately or not.
So we put out an RFQ, a request for qualifications. We had 5 respondents, 2 of which really hit the mark. And so now we've gone back to them. We're requesting actually proposals now based on the concepts that we have, because this is going to be somewhat of a design build as opposed to initiating with a complete set. What Steve has given you is the vision that we have for this, and so these firms will have this, what would I call it, architectural expertise, or have access to that, which will then bring this concept to fruition, a best fit for this repurposing.
Thank you.
Okay, Casey?
So, the basketball court renovation, where's the location of this basketball court?
That's out at Bradford Green.
Seneca? Okay.
Bradford Green. Yeah.
The old Bradford Green property. Avenue.
No, not Seneca Avenue, Bradford Green, the old former Battery Village.
Okay.
Jason?
Yeah, both dealing with the community center. The one is 150 grand for pickleball courts. I think, what all does that entail? And the other is the community center rehabilitation. I'd like to know more about that, please.
Sure. So on the pickleball courts, if you're standing out the back door of the community center looking at the tower, on the bottom right-hand corner, we would be putting in 3 or 4 pickleball courts there in that bottom corner. The amount of space that encroaches into the parking lot's minimized. At some future date, if the city wanted to, they could light them. We have the availability to do that. I think that's one of the biggest complaints that we get in City Hall from the residents is there's not enough pickleball, or that we need to tighten up the rules on the pickleball courts because people are hoarding them. So those are, again, Councilman, they're estimates based on those numbers, based on projections that Patrick did about a year ago with starting from scratch with the pickleball court. As far as the community center is concerned, this is a complete rehab on the inside, new floors, ceiling, lighting, restrooms, some minor updates to the kitchen, but not an extreme amount. But the community center, as everyone's seen, is starting to show its age, and still has the in the back room the original tile that's kind of cupping up. It's just starting to look tired, and we want to vault the ceilings, make it a little more a little fancier. So maybe we'll get some additional revenue and target toward the wedding industry a little bit more.
All right, and back on page 21, the second item down is pickleball court. Is that just renovations to one of the existing ones or maintenance, or was that to input that one by Constellation?
That's the one that started at Constellation, where we spent some of those funds already. What we plan on doing, what we're looking at right now is there's an old abandoned basketball court out on Seneca, behind one of the gardens. And we're looking at the feasibility of converting that basketball court to a pickleball. The court's abandoned, no one's using it. The other area that we're looking at, if that doesn't pan out, is Miss Johnson's, Bambi Johnson, is looking at purchasing some portable net units that we could put into the rear gym of the Star Center out back, and then maybe at some point put the doors on lock timers and the lighting, and have people that both summer and winter, they could use that certain times of the day. The systems would actually be retractable or removable through, just like you do with a volleyball type deal. So she's looking at that now. I have no idea what those cost. We're just in the preliminary discussions on that.
Was there any discussion by the administration, because you guys get complaints on pickleball courts here at City Hall. One of the biggest complaints I hear from residents is, things for youth to do in town, mainly middle school, high school. So has there been consideration for, and I know that we've talked about this at Parks and Harbor, but skate parks? Because if you look around downtown, there are a lot of signs that say no skating here. And I think, a place where that demographic could go would be a good thing for the city.
No, we have not looked at that. I put it on the list.
Are we good? Okay, we're winding down. With Fund 9. Should go pretty quick. Page 1 of Fund 9. Hey, Jimmy. Oh, okay. Carolyn?
Thank you. I could not find Aberdeen revenue for the sale of their water, and I don't know if I missed it or not. Did we finish the hookup for Robin
The water
Hood?
line's still under construction.
Even for Robin Hood?
It's just started.
Yeah, we have
So
not
we have
projected
made
any.
We've not made the hookup.
Okay, how about for fiscal year '23? Is there anything projected?
Not yet.
Not
We
yet.
most of '23 is going to spend both completing and we're kind of at the mercy of
get it built.
Aberdeen and getting ready to turn their spigot on. So anything there would be
There's
a bonus.
There's two phases to the project, not just
I'm
our
good.
phase. So obviously, things were delayed from materials and such. We had some other issues with utilities, but there's two phases, not just the city's, our portion of the water line has to be constructed, but also Aberdeen's. They
Well,
have
I knew
booster
Aberdeen
pumps,
had
but
some
without
issues.
without that connection, there's not going to be any water.
Even to Robin Hood Road?
The Robin Hood Road, the only connection we're not going to really realize, because we don't know what it is, we're connected to a meter, which will be going to Rock Glen and those residents, but we can't project the revenue that we're going to see. But until their project is two phases. One is it's not just a water line, but they also have to build a pump station, booster pump station. So
Okay.
we're both kind of trying to finish working on the project to get it.
And they know it's in their best interest. We're just on their timeline.
We just don't have the time.
Anything else?
Oh, damn it.
Page 2.
Distributed expenses again?
I agree with whatever you say, Councilmember Jenner. On distributed expense.
You'll give me a list?
The distributed expenses is
This is for
basically
water
an
production.
allocation of the office functions and legislative functions done by the council here at City Hall. And it's required under government accounting to allocate those on some rational basis, and we use, depending on the person, for instance, like HR is done by head count. A lot of it's done by relative size of the budget, excluding capital, as an allocation methodology, but basically it's an allocation of a portion of the general fund, and if you look at the distributed expenses for both the marina and water and sewer, there is basically a distributed expense revenue line item in Fund 1, where They're basically paying for billing services, accounting services, HR services, fleet maintenance services, those kinds of operations. And that's validated every year under the audit, and they have that as a separate line item, but that's a requirement of government accounting.
It's just significantly higher for
And that's because of
23.
the increase in the basis of moving all those people and the like from Fund 1 to Fund 9 means that we didn't change the basis of estimation because in accounting, they want it to stay consistent year to year, not change based on, unless you're truly changing something. But we've never allocated the street crew to Fund 9 in terms of part of distributed expenses. So it actually caused an increase in it for this year that was higher than what you would normally see.
Okay. Casey?
Are you on page 1 of 6?
206.
Page 2 of 6.
Keep going, keep
Am I-
going,
am I missing?
keep going, keep going,
Can I go back 2 pages?
if
then?
you want.
The truckload water sales? Are we no longer, or only providing a small amount of water to, like, I'm assuming that's pools, right?
It's for whatever anybody wants to. It's just based on the projections, yeah. We don't have a lot of it.
Okay. I'm just wondering what it looks, is there a loss there, the 28,000?
Back 2 pages. Go back to page 1.
She's looking on a year-to-date actual, line 1.
Account
28,741.
Yeah, there must have been a refund. I'll have to look at the details of that, because that's just pulled right out of the actuals year to date. More than likely, it was a credit given to a developer. I seem to recall there being an issue where they were using a metered service and they got a credit for some of it. And it's a much more expanded story. But yes, that's a net cost to the city or some credit given to the developer for water sales, probably during development.
Could you just give council an update on that, please?
I will send an email
Thank
to
you.
council with the details of it. I just don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Casey?
No, that's it.
Okay, good. Page 3. Any questions? Page 4. Is there any specific reason for the huge increase in sludge removal from 38,000 to 85,000?
Well, for both, there's a huge increase on both the water treatment plant side and the wastewater treatment plant side, and it just has to do with the overall cost of removing the sludge. So we're having, for the first time, one of the things that we've actually, is we're putting in place a solid handling facility upgrades that actually works, and that will remove the sludge, and so there's a ticket, so we're gonna see a bigger cost in the fact that we're gonna be taking that out of the water treatment plant.
And also just the hauling costs now with
Hauling
the fuel.
costs.
Okay.
It's really restricted. We basically have one company now that does the work for us, and they take it up to farm fields up in Pennsylvania.
We are putting that out to bid again right now.
Okay.
Shell's doing that,
But
because it's high.
it's very, it's high.
Casey?
Is the 90,000 for under chemical expense realistic? Or do you think
It's realistic to what it's gonna cost. I mean, it's
currently, I'm just know
It's
those
based
prices are
on,
going
it's
up?
based on the prices that are going up and an estimation to try to anticipate the higher costs of chemicals, but yes, it is a fact.
And I would say, and the mayor and I have had a number of conversations about this, this very well could be the last year that the council has the availability of not to raise the rates, because the chemical costs are starting to get like crazy.
They're eating into our operational expenses.
Yeah.
And you just don't, also, as far as the amount that you buy, you can't buy crazy amounts of chemicals because you don't have places to store them.
Well, we buy whatever we can in bulk, and we have, in the water plant, we have several totes that we have. We buy as much in bulk that we can that fits into the storage space that we have, yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we used to buy, like chlorine, we used to purchase it in 1-ton cylinders, and we could get it a lot cheaper. Now we're buying it in 150-pound cylinders, but there's also a safety factor there, because where it's located downtown. So we did get rid of it over on the wastewater side. We don't use chlorine at all in the process. We changed the process. But we have to use it down at the water plant, and we're really, the chlorine costs have gone up exponentially.
Everything has,
Yeah.
we're seeing all our
The
costs.
flocculants, all that, yeah.
Flocculants, fluoride, all that
Yeah.
material's going up dramatically in cost.
So based off of that, again, 90,000 is going to be good for this year?
We
You
believe
don't
so.
expect-
We've
okay.
estimated as best we can.
Don't
but
think it's
yes.
going to need to be more than that?
It's based on what we've estimated, we're pretty sure
Okay.
that that's gonna work.
The, when we talk about sludge removal, have we been able to ensure and confirm that the county is not still running the sludge down from their operation to our wastewater
No
treatment
one is,
plant?
we're right now working together, they are not.
Okay.
We've confirmed that we're not.
Anybody else?
That thing's been shut off. Nothing's going down at the wastewater treatment plant anymore from anybody.
Let's move to capital budget, page 5. Any questions from council? Jason?
Just one quick comment. Also, in Budget and Finance Committee meeting, we did talk about getting a tracker of all of the ARPA funding that's been spent year-to-date. I just wanted to make the fellow council members aware in case anyone was interested.
Okay, that'd be good. Page 6.
Pardon me, if you can go back. And just, again, for everybody's edification, when the tower tank rehabilitations, if you could just go over for everybody.
The
what's
tower
gonna be-
tank rehabilitation is for the Bully Rock Tower. That contract has been awarded, and they're basically, I guess we're still working through supplies and things like that to actually get them moving, but that project's been awarded. And that's basically going to be painting the interior, exterior, cleaning the interior off, putting things like that were not constructed correctly when it was originally built. Also putting in a tower, a drip ring for maintenance, as well as to actually hang antenna from communication antenna that we can charge rent for.
Okay.
There are a couple things, that project's been awarded.
And a
Just
new
working
logo,
through the process, what?
and a new logo.
And a new logo, yes, we are.
Thank you.
The Bully Rock thing's coming up.
That makes it worth money.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I didn't realize we were going to page 6. I still have a question on page 5, and it's about the tanks, because originally on listed projects, we had 3 tanks.
We do.
So we are only thinking we're going to fix 1,
We are,
3?
we are in the process, basically what I've done is, so I did an actual study on to replace the tanks, and there's a number of things that have to be constructed when we go down the road with expansion of development on top of the hill. When we get to the sale of water to Aberdeen, when it gets to be at 900,000 gallons, and just the overall system and what needs to be done to bring the system up. So there are 2 tanks that have to be, there's a number of options that have to be completed, and I've presented those options to the mayor and Steve. Basically, it's in the neighborhood of, there's several options to pick for those, to place Lapidem and the Graceview tanks, and there's certain associated costs with those. And so we're right now going to sit down. It does not have to be done now, so that's why it's not reflected in this budget, but in the next year or 2, we've got to sit down and look at that overall cost and how we're going to replace that. Because that's part of the line that goes up 155. All that's worked into these costs. And it, you know, it comes, I think it came to somewhere around, it's pretty expensive nut, and we have to figure out how to, the options that we're gonna pick, and then not, the, in fact, how it's gonna be financed and paid.
Okay. Dave?
And I know you were talking about the water remodeling, and there were 3 tanks. Are we still in the consideration of having to add a 4th one
We
down
are,
on?
we actually, one of those is going to be added, there's going to be a tank up, regardless of the option, there's gonna have to be a tank on top of the hill, by what was once time the hospital property, there will need to be a tank installed up there.
Okay.
But one of the options too is installing a 5th tank that would be down off the ball field by, off of Revolution Street. But again, that's a series of options, and that's one of them in the picture.
Thank you.
That's not in this fiscal year.
It is not in this fiscal year. Those projects, well, part of it is I'm trying to get, you know, we have to pick an option, we have to figure out how it's gonna be paid for, and then it's a year or 2 out. But at some point in time, we've got to get that taken care of.
All right.
And I believe that's going to be part of the biggest concerns when we're talking water and sewer going forward is these tanks, and we're talking $3-4 million easily for a lot of this.
The overall improvements are somewhere basically in the neighborhood of about $28 million. So it's a big deal. Now, some of that payment is going to come from the city. Some of that payment has to come from the development community. So that's part of what the administration needs to work out and try to work on. And that's going to be, like I said, that's something to be handled in the next 2 years, but it's a pretty big expense that has to be taken care of.
Okay. Go back to page 6. Any questions? Okay. Guess we'll go to Marina Fund. This will be short and sweet.
Sink or swim.
Page 1 of the Marina Fund. Any questions? Not a whole lot of change. Page 2. Questions? Boy, you're making it easy. Page 3.
The marina just keep.
Okay, Dave?
Just the question, Tim, are we still on track for that tank coming in?
That is it's unfortunately, and Patrick can attest to this, it's like about a 10-month delay on it. And then we're at the point right now, I think we're gonna, Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, we're probably gonna be able to get it sometime when the season's over. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense starting that project now, when the height of boating season, so we're just gonna put it off. Whenever the tank comes in, we're gonna put it off till the season's over with. And
So it still looks like
But
it's going to hit in 2023,
it,
not
it will,
2024.
it'll be this coming fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the directors, the city staff for all the work you did. Oh, Casey?
So we've gone through all of this, and I'm not really sure, where is the citizen connection in this? This letter.
Steve's got it.
You want to comment on that, Bridget? Yep.
Councilmember Boyer, the Havre Grace Business Beat newsletter is going to eventually replace the Citizen Connection. We have we have released 2 editions. As we grow this, we want to pick up the information that was in the Citizen Connection and have 1 publication coming out of the city, at least in terms of what's going on in the city, tourism, and economic development.
So what we had used the Business Beat before, or not Business Beat, the Citizen Connection for before is to, communicate big things that are happening. Specifically, this came up with the Green Team, and lamenting that, they haven't seen it in a while. And it used to be a great way to make sure people knew what to recycle, when to recycle, that other projects available throughout the city. Is a Business Beat going to accept that as the topic? It just seems like if I was living in the community and I was looking for basic information about the community, I wouldn't look at it from the Business Beat. I would expect the Business Beat to be more geared towards the business community and what's happening there.
Well, the Business Beat is, but it also has information about the community. And I did ask for additional funding in the budget for the Business Beat, so we want to grow it. So it's not in its final stages. It has not encompassed everything. And if I remember, the Citizen Connection went out with the water bill once a quarter or
It
something.
was quarterly at one point, but
It went out with
Yes.
it's been a long time.
Right, so we want to start publishing. We are publishing once a quarter now, just because we were starting up. We would like to publish a little bit more frequently, either once a month or every other month. But I think this is something that we can fully discuss if we feel as though the Citizen Connection is needed as a separate publication.
I can say honestly, it was nice because it was a connection for people who didn't necessarily keep track of what's happening in city council meetings, to know of the things that are going on within their community, things to look forward to, any kind of major capital projects that are going to be going on, stuff like that. So, does it need to be print versus electronic, or, up in the
I
air
was
there,
just
but it is
wondering.
seen as something that the community has valued in the past.
I think that's the ticket. So the cost of putting the Citizen Connection together, I think that the last one we rolled out was about $18,000. So we sort of backed off and we did, I think, in 1 year. And then we really looked at what's a better way of doing this that's less cost effective, but as effective as far as getting out. So we thought we'd do maybe like a hybrid of what Bridget's doing, and then we know that there's going to be some level of mailing. We just know that. But part of what we hope to do is on our website, because I think the people that are web savvy know where to go, right? So if they get on a mailing list through the city website, then that plays right into what Bridget's doing. And then the trick is the balancing of the electronic folks that are getting it, and then the hard copy that needs to be mailed out. That's where where we just kind of run into a brick wall.
Right, and sometimes I know that what we did is we cut out the piece about what is recycled, and that went above where the recycling is, so that kind of helped educate my daughter on, okay, this goes in, this doesn't go in.
Yeah, now, we will do that when the new trash contract comes out. Then we'll send a notice, a flyer, go out to every citizen, not that we think anything is going to change as far as pickup days. We're hoping all that will stay the same, but also anything updates on recycling. And we're also going to marry into that, because we're required to, is our flood program annually. So
I know that for the people new to our community, the mailing that they get is very helpful.
Yeah.
And valued by people, and they make them feel welcomed to the community. So, I do know that mailing costs are going up, and production and getting content is a challenge, and sometimes you can just recycle things, but it is something that is valued from the community.
Thank you. We will continue to work on it.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Again, thanks to the mayor and the directors and city staff for all your work. I know past few days I've had George on speed dial, and I thank you for taking the time out to educate me, and keep me informed, keep me up to date. I want to thank council. You guys were really engaged tonight. You guys came prepared. I want to thank Tammy for joining the team tonight. I think we learned a lot. It was very informative. We walk away with a better knowledge than we walked in with, and we'll see what happens next. Okay.
All right.
We didn't lose you on speed dial yet, so.
CP, will we need to follow through with the May 9th meeting as scheduled?
What's
Does
council think? You think we need a May 9th meeting? Is everybody pretty informed of where we're at in the grand scheme of things? You tell me. I mean,
I just need to know for publication purposes.
So are we, says that the tax rate ordinance public hearing is scheduled for that night?
Mm-hmm.
The water and sewer public hearing? Do we not need a public hearing that night? Would that be done at the next council meeting?
No, so those public hearings
Have to happen
have to
on that.
occur. What I need to make sure is if there's an open meeting of the administration and the council, that needs to be publicized as well.
if we're going to talk about the budget, he has to
If you're having a budget work session, I have to publicize
put out that we're
that.
doing the public hearing that night on both tax rate
Yeah.
and water rate.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
the public hearing for the water sewer is we've already loaded that up, that's out.
Yeah, no, I was looking down here chronologically. I didn't see that that was still a budget work session.
What they try to do is they try to make sure that they get that in while the current council's in place.
Yeah.
They don't want to dump that on the new council members, so that's why they're pushing it forward for May 9th.
We're not going to save any time by not having it, but we can it makes ourselves available in case there's a member of the public that comes for either one of those other two issues to also talk about the budget. And we've already published this, right?
That's published internally.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's not published. I have to put it in the newspaper, the
Didn't we
website.
talk about it at our last council meeting, though? That we would have 2 sessions?
We did.
Yeah.
We used to have 3 sessions, and we'd only wind up with 1 or 2, and then we would just dump the last one.
But I gotta say that, I think it's a credit to council that you came prepared, you came engaged. Normally, we don't get through all 3 funds in one night. We did tonight, and it went quickly. It went like clockwork. A lot of good dialogue. So it just boils down to, do you feel that you walked away informed, or some things you want to talk about at another time?
Well, if we got to meet the 9th anyway for the
Correct.
public hearings, we might as well just
So
keep it
I'll-
as it is. And
Yeah,
if we
I
don't
was
have
actually
anything
going to make
say-
a suggestion. Why don't we just go ahead? It's easier to advertise it
Right.
and then put on the door that the budget work session's been canceled.
Gotcha.
Okay,
And
Will do.
then to have,
Do that.
then to cancel it now, then have some council members say, I really want to talk about some things in public. So why don't we just go ahead and advertise that we will have a council budget work session following the tax rate ordinance public hearing,
Might only be 5 minutes, who knows?
6 o'clock.
So all the directors will need to be available on the 9th for that.
Okay.
And again, if
Fine.
nobody wants to meet that evening and say we're cool, we can just put sign on the door. If you want to meet after it, we all meet.
Good deal.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Again,
All
a
of you.
lot of good dialogue.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Sign it out.
Do we need to make a motion to close?
Go ahead.
Done?
Done? All right, we're good.
8:09.